How great would it be to get up close and personal with the beauty industry heroes we love and admire, and to ask them, how did you learn to do what you do? I'm Chris Baran, a hairstylist and educator for 40 plus years, and I'm inviting all our heroes to chat and share the secrets of their success. You know, I believe in gratitudes, and I'm really grateful for today's guest. He is the Redken and Mazzani ambassador and the owner of Limoges in the City Salon in D.C. He is known in the industry as a leader in texture and curly hair. He's had covers and features in Washington Life, Essence, Black Hair UK, Black Passion, and of course, dozens more. He's a Ford's Top 10 honoree. Salon Limoges was finalist for Steve Harvey's Neighborhood Awards. He styled hair for CEOs, actresses, fashion models, Grammy-nominated musicians, and TV hosts. He's been sought after to do work for the BET Awards and promotional tours, as well as New York Fashion Weeks. He is a multi-finalist and NAHA winner. So let's get into this week's head case. Jamal Edmonds. Jamal, it's been too damn long since we've hung out together, but I just want to say welcome to Headcases, and it is an absolute pleasure to have you on board here.
I appreciate it. It has been a long time, so I'm super excited about hanging out with you today.
I had your bestie on the other day. She, it was interesting, and just for those people listening and watching, his bestie is Evie Evie Johnson. Sorry, wrong Evie. And we had a really good time, and she spoke very highly about you as well. And initially, what I wanted to happen is I was trying to get the two of you on together. And I think it would have been too much hassle. And, once we get this stuff all figured out really well, maybe we can do that. We can have another one on there with the two of you. And then I can find out the real truth.
I would love that. She said she had a great time. So.
Yeah. Well, she's special, I think, in both of our lives. So yeah. I have a quick question. I have to think, I was trying to think back to the first time that I met you. Now, this may not be correct, but was it, I believe, Lee, my son, was directing a video shoot for Mazzani. Uh-huh. And I believe you, Evie, I'm not sure if Michelle O'Connor was there. Is that correct? Were you at that shoot? This was God knows, 8-10 years ago.
No, you know what? I don't think I was at that shoot, but let me remind you where
Now I'm going to beg first of all, for those of you just listening, he's a young whippersnapper, and I got the old gray hair and grow gray beard, so my brain cells aren't quite as good as Jamal's is.
So no, I don't know if you remember, but it was a training that I think it was you, Ruth Roche, some other amazing artists had did for PPD a long time ago.
That's right. That was with Nick French. Yes, and Chris Sorby also was in the planning of that, and then she got called away just beforehand. So there was just Ruth, Nick, and I.
Yeah, so that was the first time we met, and that was many, many years ago.
Yeah.
And it was, first of all, one of the most exciting trainings that I've ever been to date. I mean, because it was just full of, I am a true creative, so it's not often that we as stylists get to learn and recreate those really creative parts of the industry. Mm-hmm. And so it was really good. It was a really, really great experience. I walked away with so many tools, and I believe that was the first year that I submitted to NAHA.
Yeah. There was a lot of people there that came. Then and to give true credit to that, I remember being at I can't remember what show it was, and I remember having a conversation with Christine Schuster, who at that time was the head of education throughout PPD, and she said to me, I think that I'm afraid that the avant-garde is going to get lost. Because obviously, I mean, she saw the future that,
Yeah.
me getting a little long in the tooth, Nick French, Ruth, Chris
Yeah.
Sorby. And if we don't pass that on, and at least the knowledge that we have, it's not that the other avant-garde is going to die away, but she
Yeah.
said, we want to get everybody together and then just have real creative section and everybody just shares what they know. And
Yeah.
so she was the one that really put that together. But I'll tell you, it was so much fun with putting that stuff together and then just jamming the stuff down your guys' throat on everything that we did. So that was fun.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. It was really, really a great training. And we walked away so inspired, so much knowledge, and it was really good.
Yeah. And you know what it was is what I think was because we were too. We were as inspired as everybody else. We were nervous as hell because we had all the industry peers and greats in that room. And, we were sitting there thinking everybody's arms were going to be crossed, sitting back in the chair going, come on, okay, show me something. But all of you guys were just like leaning forward and gathering around. And it was just so much fun. But I'll tell you what I think the miraculous thing that created the inspiration wasn't, maybe we had a small iota of it, but it was everybody getting together after that and actually doing the work and playing with the pieces and not worried about whether things turned out, whether they did or didn't. And I think that was the part that was truly inspiring. And for me, that was a truly magical moment to see all of the other talent and the inspiration and the sharing that happened within all the companies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good. I remember walking away from that, and I was so inspired to be able to like create and,
Yeah.
just sitting there with all of these amazing, artists from PPD. It was just like, wow.
Yeah.
And to have you all share, which I think stuck out to me the most was to really be able to see like the collections recreated on mannequins.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like you all had did all of this amazing work, but to be able to recreate it and then put it on mannequins and display it and show it to us, I think was also because a lot of times when as an artist you can do something and it's like, how the hell did I do this? I don't know how
Bingo.
to recreate this. But you all did a really, really, really great job with doing that. And like I said, I left, I was totally inspired, and that was kind of what jump started my entries to NAHA.
Well,
So
and just in a second here, I loved all your work, and ever since you started doing it, you can tell when somebody has taste, skill, and the stick-to-itness to get the look right.
yeah,
And I have to tell you, your work has always been inspirational to me, and I some of it, we might have shared some of the things we do, but I was looking at some of your work and I'm going, how in the hell did you do that? And I want to get Lee to bring up just this, and you've won many NAHAs, you've been in finalists, and I want to show this one collection because this one was pivotal to me and this was a finalist, and I was just shocked that you didn't win with this one. But
I know, right?
and listen, you never have to worry about that. I always tell people, look I can't tell you, I probably shot almost every time for NAHA, and I've won twice and been Susan Lucci all the rest of the times. But the middle one in this, well, first of all, the whole collection is absolutely stunning.
Thank you.
The middle one. Now, I want to tell for the people that people are watching, they'll see it. For the people listening, the collection we're talking about are these beautiful models with flowing outfits. And this, if you can imagine this big S formation on top of the head that appears to be bald, but yet this magnificent dressed hair is exaggerated like you would see on a normal head of hair in a big S formation. How did you do that?
This was a very, very interesting collection because, again, as an artist, you have in your mind how you want something to look. You can practice it, but it's like, does it really happen?
Yeah.
Does it really, really happen that way? Or what you create, is it exactly what's in your mind, right? And so what happened was it wasn't supposed to look like that at all. It was
Really?
supposed to be It was supposed to be more stretched out or elongated. So where this kind of bevels up and
Yep.
at the bottom, that was supposed to be straight. But what happened was I was trying to push it down and my hand kind of pushed it up and I saw like the texture and the color, it kind of loosened up a bit
Mm-hmm.
and it created a really cool silhouette. So I was like, okay, let's go with this.
Yeah.
But I do have some other images where it was shot in a different way. But what happened was ball cap on the sides, and her hair was pulled through the top in a ponytail. And so I created like a cushion, and I actually wrapped the hair around the cushion.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like some wires in there to kind of keep it, and then to make it where I can move it a bit. But again, it was not what I envisioned in my mind.
Yeah. You know, Ruth Roach, what I love about her is, and I got this from her. She she always said, "Do the hair, but wait for the surprise." And
Hmm.
that's exactly what I heard. What I think I heard you say
Yeah, for
was
sure.
that you never know exactly what it's going to be, or you might have an image in your brain, but you got to wait for the surprise, something that will happen that will be way better than what you actually pictured in your brain. Now, so you attached those, and just so again, everybody that is listening, it's a bald cap,
Hmm.
ponytail pulled through the top, and then but there's still incredible ways you can't really pin into a bald cap.
No.
How did you secure the top and the back?
So what I did was the ponytail was here, and then I wrapped the
At the
ponytail with
crown, yeah,
wire. Yep,
yeah.
at the crown. So I wrapped the ponytail with wire, and then I split it. So
Oh,
I kind of split the wire this way,
yeah. So it
right?
was part in the front and part in the back.
Yep. So
Got
wire
it.
in the front, wire in the back, and then what I did was I used some stuffing just to attach to the wire,
Yep.
and then I started to wrap the hair around
Around
it.
it. Brilliant. Yeah, I know that what we found we had to do when I used ball caps with a wig, we would use carpet tape and double
Ah,
sided carpet tape, and
yeah.
that would adhere the. You can do it a couple ways. I mean, I remember doing one for the symposiums when we had to create bald heads that were shaved sides and everything, and we actually used glue, and we
Oh,
glued the hair to the bald cap, but like the hairpiece is
yeah.
shot after that. But that just to me shows that what your creative mind is like. So I want to kind of shoot back a little bit. Um, when you plan, I know that you and Evie are
Yeah.
besties.
Yeah.
What's the planning process like for you when you plan when
So
you're getting ready for a shoot?
it's really interesting because I would always tell people she's a huge support to me and a very intricate part in just my journey as a hairdresser.
Hmm.
And a lot of times I feel like, in terms of where do you find inspiration or who motivates you or who's your accountability partner,
Hmm.
we are that for each other. And so we don't, we plan everything together. And so typically what happens is we'll get dates on the book. We'll start to plan everything. So, like dates, we'll start to look for models. And typically, what happens is she's logistics. So, she handles booking everything except for the models. So, I do the models, and then we sit down and we kind of draw out what our images should look like.
Hmm.
And it's interesting because, she'll draw something, and then I'm like, okay, I get it. She's walking me through it. And then just recently, we'll do a lunch and a working lunch, and we'll kind of draw the images. And so the third image, she couldn't really she was explaining it to me, but she couldn't really draw it. And so I'm like, okay, let me figure it out. So I drew it out for her, and she's like, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because again, we bounce off of each other. I remember last year my collection, my third image that I shot, I got stuck, and she walked around and she's like, nope, that's not it. And I was like, okay. So I'm like, well, what are you thinking? And she's like, I think you should take it up. So I was like, okay. So now, mind you, I had created this image or what I thought was going to be an image. And I had been working on it for probably about 45 minutes. Now, you can imagine as a creative, someone comes by you and they're like,
Oh,
nope, that's not it. Right. But again, we trust each other so much where I know when she said it wasn't it,
yeah.
and ego out the window, we do it together. I took it down. I took her advice. I created it. I pushed it up and it was perfect. And,
Yeah.
and so I think the other part is just us being able to respect and love each other and also know that, she has an eye that sometimes I can't see things
Mm,
and vice versa. And so
mm,
being able to accept that criticism and know that it's like, hey, I see something. I want you to win,
yeah. Yeah.
and being able to accept that sometimes it's hard for creatives.
Yeah. I really loved what you said there because I think that I want to kind of break it down and make sure that I got what you're saying. The fact of an accountability partner to
Mm-hmm.
me means just that, is that they're holding you accountable, not only just to the logistical stuff, but they're there as a coach, and a coach is going to say, that's going to win or it's not. Or you can have a terrible coach that will just say, oh, you're okay, make sure that you're feeling all right, and then let you go through all that motion, time, energy, money, and then you lose anyway. Now, to be clear, I remember doing an interview one time and with Maggie Mulhern, and she was asking me tell me what your feeling is about winning, about being in NAHA and whatnot. And I said, if you tell me that anybody is going to go in there and doesn't want to win, I'll call that person a liar. We'll always have our statement that we'll give after, and that was okay, great. But you went in there to win. If you didn't win, to me, if you don't want to win, you're not a champion.
I
And
agree.
but the funny thing that she said was, I've talked to so many people, and they always say, oh well, just being a finalist is okay, and
Yeah,
there is merit to that. Don't get me wrong, but you have to go into it wanting to win and do
absolutely.
your very best. And here's the reason why. I don't want everybody to think that you and I are talking about you got to go into win and you stomp over people and do all of those things. But when you go into it, you've got to go into it and say, if I don't win, at least the very least, worst case scenario, I'm going to have an amazing collection that I can still put in branding on my walls, and I can still have it in magazines, etc. But if you don't, if that coach lets you pass, there's going to be that image in there that you hate forever. And
Listen,
and it's there. So that's what I
that
love about what you said about what Evie
yeah.
holds you accountable on.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because my very, very first collection, I did not have. I mean, Evie and I still work together, but
Yeah.
again, this was the first time that we were shooting, and I had that one image that I ate in that collection. So it's very, very interesting that you said that because I feel like had I just, tried a few different things with that one image, I would have been, I probably would have been nominated or even won.
Yeah. 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 And it
So it's
haunts
very, very
you.
true. It's very
It,
true.
yeah, it haunts you when that happens because you knew it was there. And that's why I'll tell you what, when the budget allows, and if I need 3 images, I shoot 4 or I shoot
Hmm.
5 because then I can pick the best 3 and still
Hmm.
have a collection out of the other one as well. But just to go back to that, damn, your work is so fine. I have to tell you
Thank
that. I
you.
don't know if I'm dating myself. But next word I'm going to use is cool. So I want to go back because you are a creative, but
Yes.
I want to go back to your family life. Did it start there? What was it? What was family life like for you?
It's very, very interesting because I literally, as long as I can remember, I've been the creative kid, and what was most important to me about when I look back on my family life is not that I was a creative kid, but it was that my family gave me the space and allowed me to be that creative kid. Because what happens is, had I become, they knew that I was creative, but maybe they had a different idea of where they wanted my life to go, right? And I wasn't able to express myself, then maybe I would have gone a whole different path.
Yeah.
And so I think that, my grandfather was an entrepreneur. He was a chef. And so I used to watch him decorate cakes, and I used to help him make cakes. And on weekends, we would help him at weddings and things like that. And so entrepreneurship and just that creative, just a creative person, and being allowed to use my creativity to actually do something. It was something that I learned very, very early.
Yeah.
So I was always the one that, I tried out. I wanted to try different haircuts. I wanted to, wear different sneakers, and I was just allowed to take up space and be who I was. And I'm very grateful, because I just, who knows what would have happened if they would have said, no, you can't do that,
Yeah.
and they never told me that. I remember telling my grandmother when I was 18, I hadn't even when I was 16, I hadn't even finished high school. And I was like, I want to go to cosmetology school. And she said to me, are you sure? And I said, yeah. And she signed me up, and I was in regular school that day and cosmetology school that night. And that was where it all began for me.
That's
But
amazing.
I remember, very vividly, just the support and love. My family always embraced me, and just they knew that I was unique and I was allowed to be that.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it helped me really come into my own, and it also allowed me the time to focus on what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
You know, whereas like I didn't have, they when I wanted to become a hairdresser, I didn't really have them saying, no, you should do this, or are you sure that's what you want to do?
Yeah.
They were like, hey, if that's what you want to do, you just be the best hairdresser that you can be. And that's what it was.
What were your siblings like? Were they the same? Were they what you call
Um,
creatives? I mean, I hate to lump everybody together into that, but who
no,
were
I
your siblings?
understand. So my older brother, I have two older brothers. Both of them are not creatives at
Yeah.
all. And then my younger sister, I have a younger sister that is creative. But for the most part, it was only two of us that were really the creative
Yeah.
ones. The other ones were kind of they expressed themselves, but
Yeah.
not in that creative way.
What was it like in school? Like, was the like, did that creativity help, hinder? What was it like in school?
It helped. It helped. I felt like because so early on, I was in probably like the seventh, eighth grade, like going to high school, and I realized that I had a gift, and so I was doing everyone's hair,
Huh?
like I was doing all my friends' hair and my friends' friends, and so it kind of created it made me a little popular, with people. So people always wanted to hang out with me, or they knew I knew
Nice.
how to do hair, So my high school years were really good. I didn't have any real issues, but in terms of my talent, I felt like it just blossomed, and I never ever thought, when I was young that I was actually going to be a hairdresser. I knew that I had a gift,
Yeah.
but I didn't know how far it would take me. I mean, I even look today and like, wow, like who would have known that, this little young man that was 15 years old, just learning to do braids, on my younger sister, that I would actually be doing some of the things that I've done. So, it's definitely made room for me.
Awesome. The I remember, like, did you always have patience for it? Was there a well? And I find there's sometimes people that will want to get to an end result really quick, and there's some
Mhm.
people that will go into it and just really put the time and effort into it. Now, where I'm going with this, and I remember watching. The reason why I'm asking you that is we were doing a show together, and I believe it was the BTC show, and it was the Redken Mazzani, and we were doing the whole thing together. And I remember you had this stunning model with this perfect curl in her hair, and it was blonde, blondish.
Yes.
And I was watching you. I don't know. To me, it seemed like 10 minutes because I was so fascinated by it. But it was an hour or more that you spent making sure that these girls' natural coils were perfect, and positioning them, and then having to dry them. Were you always that type to put in the time, energy? Tell me a little bit more about your feelings on that.
You know what? Yes, I have always been a very, very patient person. Even now, when it comes to life and things, like I'm a very patient person. And I will share something with you that I felt like as an adult, I see where my patience came from. My mom today's her birthday. She passed away though 2 years ago. 2 years.
Well, let's pause there. Let's pause there and wish your mom a happy heavenly birthday.
Yes, thank you.
So that. Happy birthday, Mom! I know you're watching. Your amazing son.
Thank you. But my mom suffered from mental illness, and throughout my entire teenage years, I was one of the people that had to care for her, and so my patience started then because dealing with mental illness, a lot of times people don't really understand, and it's not her fault, And I would always look at it like it's not her fault. It's just it's almost like a sickness or illness, right? And so earlier on, as when I was younger, I had to have patience because I had to help her. I had to guide her. I had to do a lot of things with and for her. And so for me, that is where I feel like my patience came in. Yeah. And I've been able to kind of carry it throughout my adulthood. But I'm smiling because, my mother and I had a great relationship. Even the lows, I think about just me being with her, because had someone else been there, she may not have been able to be safe and as protected and cared for as what I did, So I'm grateful to have had those opportunities or those times with her. But, it definitely helped me navigate through real life,
Yeah. Yeah. I feel you on that one because my mom had dementia as well. And, I often would get a little short simply because she wasn't when she was in that form, she wasn't the person that I knew, and I knew it was robbing me of it, and I would get impatient and still suffer from that one. So I understand and thank you. But is there times in your life now, like what pulls your patience away from you?
So I have 3 kids, and they're all young.
Well, we know where you're going.
Kevin,
that's what it shows why some animals eat their young.
So if I could say anything that pulls my patience away from me is, sometimes the kids.
Yeah.
We have a house full of boys, and you know how that can be. They are in constant competition, and they just pick with each other and bother each other. And I'm like, guys, can you just chill out for a minute? So that would be the only thing.
Yeah. And I'm an only child. So, listen, that's probably why I didn't have a lot of patience when I was first married, simply because of, if you wanted noise, you made the noise. If you didn't want noise, you shut up, but it's hard to do that. This episode is sponsored by the Salon Associate Accelerator from trainersplaybook.com. Are you struggling with the time and cost of associate training? Do you feel like your salon is running you? We'll get your associates on the floor, all with 90% less time from you, so you can get back to building your business. Get them world-class design, finishing, color, and client care skills they'll use every day for the rest of their career, while you focus on realizing your vision. Go to trainersplaybook.com and get the Salon Associate Accelerator. And now, back to the show. Let's talk about, I want to shift kind of how you got into hair, but you're just an amazing educator as well. And you travel the world, you do these amazing collection, but how did you, what was the spark? Was there somebody that got you into it? Was there something? How it got you into education?
So what got me into education was I was a salon owner at a very, very early age, right? So I believe I opened my first salon at the age of 23.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I had no clue on how to run a business, any of those things. So I was learning and going through. But what I felt the most was that in running my salon space as a leader, I will walk away feeling empty at night, in terms of how I was constantly giving to my staff and motivating and, inspiring them. But it was like when it was for me, I didn't have that around. Right.
Yeah.
And so I was like, one year I think I want to join a brand, or I want to become a part of a brand. And I didn't even really know what that meant at that time. I did know that, I knew that it was going to be Mazzani. I knew that was where I wanted to go. And so I knew that I would see educators at shows on stage talking about product and that type of thing, or, doing hair. And so I knew that I wanted to be a part of that. And once I became interesting enough, one of Evie's best friends is who introduced us. And so I ended up being introduced to Evie. We went out. I was telling her because she was on Mazzani at the time. And so I was like, hey, I want to be a part of Mazzani. I want to know more about it. And we went to dinner. We went to lunch. And they were just so happily hiring that year. So I auditioned and I made the team. And that's so Evie is what got me into Mazzani.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I felt like, becoming a part of that is where my cup is filled, because when you think about when you're in those leadership positions, you're salon owners, you're educators, you're doing all of these things. It's like, how do you stay inspired? And so again, having a friend like Evie, or the artists that I meet along my journey. It's a few Redken artists that I stay connected with. It's Mazzani artists that I stay connected with, and that way I am still motivated. I am inspired. I do want to show up at 110% because I've now connected myself to like-minded individuals. Yep. And so it was important to me as I moved through, my journey as a hairdresser, that I could not only inspire people, but that I could meet people that would inspire me.
Yeah. You're always so gracious on stage. What's it like before you step on stage? What's your brain like before you walk on stage?
So let me just tell you about one specific event. So I did the Redken Symposium with you all this year, and when I say that stage was huge, and the audience was huge. So when I walked up, I'm like, I'm so grateful that I was paired with Lindsay, because Lindsay's amazing. She made sure that I was good, but I do have that little nervousness, and I always tell people, I feel like that nervousness, I still have it because I'm still so passionate about what it is that I do. And I want to make sure that I'm delivering the information and that people still want to hear it. It's not about me as a person.
Right.
It's more so about the space that I've been put in and how I can share education or my journey or anything else with someone that's going to take something away from it, because I think a lot of times I know a lot of, or I see a lot of artists that, they make it about themselves
Yeah.
and that should never be what it's about. It's always about you connecting with the audience or the attendees and making sure that you're delivering impactful education so that they can take back to their salons and they can earn more or they can become more inspired or they can pass it on to someone in their
Mm-hmm.
space to help them do the same. And so that's always kind of where my nervousness comes from.
Yeah. You said something magical there, that when you're talking about them, meaning the audience, and us that are meaning, or me that's on stage. And I think that if anybody that wants to get into education on stage is just to remember that if you can just be authentic when you walk in, and this was something that was given to me, and I've passed it along numerous times to other people. I always say I'm not smart enough to think of this stuff on my own, but I am smart enough to hear something brilliant and retain it. And I remember that somebody said to me, my teacher said to me, listen, if you're thinking about the audience, then you're in your head trying to think of what you're going to do next to impress them, rather than be interested, interested versus interesting, meaning just be yourself and just be yourself and and think about them, those people that are in the audience, what you can do and give. And that's what you were saying. So to me, it's about just stop thinking about me and start thinking about them. And it allows you just to be you. And that always is who you are every time that I see you on stage. And that was that was a brilliant class, that it was with you and Lindsay. What was that like when, just for somebody that's listening and hearing us right now, has never been on stage, but you have two people on stage, both of you who do amazing work, you admire one another, but you only have 30 minutes to get out the education. And when you're used to giving it out in, say, a 90-minute class, what was that like for you? Was it easy? Was it hard? What was going on?
So it was, I don't want to say that it was easy, right? Because I do feel, we had to talk about it. We had to make sure that we were taking out those little bite-sized pieces, right? That was the most important parts because, again, we only had 30 minutes, which really means that by the time we do intro, all of these things, it was like 12 minutes apiece,
Yeah,
right?
if you're lucky.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you impact people in that short amount of time? And that was the question. What is the most important parts of what we're sharing that we can leave them with, even though we don't have this 45-minute stage.
Yeah.
And I think that we both, or that 45-minute time frame, and I think that we both did a great job with making sure that we could deliver those little bite-sized pieces where people could take away, but just, making sure that they were comfortable with it and that they really saw and walked away feeling like, okay, I got something.
Yeah. It's really interesting what you said, because, and what I took away from that was that if you're trying to get what you usually have 90 minutes of content and you only got 30, you watch so many people that take the same 90-minute program, talk faster and try to jam it all into 30 minutes. And what happens is it goes from one ear to the next out the door, and people don't retain a thing. So people have to learn to edit out what they're going to say rather than condense it down.
Yep.
And I think that's what's magical in there, especially now when you think of all the times that people are on their phone scrolling. If they don't catch something in, what is it now, 3 seconds, that they'll swipe or up, down, whatever. And you can tell my adaptation with a phone right now, or maybe the app. I don't know. But people right now their attention span is so short, so you got to give small bites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, these are things that I can't say that, just like you said, I didn't think of these things.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I've learned, throughout the way. I think that we are a part of PPD is just such a great network where we're able to constantly learn, and that's what I love about being a part of it.
Yeah.
But for me, it's just like you have to think about those things because I do think that, imagine all of that information being condensed and then you saying it all to everyone, they get lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you pick out the most important things that you want them to understand, and then you tell them, you show them, and you tell them, or you share with them,
Yeah.
and that way they get it. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, and I mean, how crazy is it that, now we can only absorb those small amounts of information because of what social is doing. But I mean, it's a thing, and
Yeah.
we kind of have to pivot to make sure that we are allowing ourselves to be, allowing ourselves to be able to give them the information in the ways that they can receive it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was interesting when you're talking about social, etc. And can I have permission? Just something that I've been wanting to ask you for, as probably almost as long as I've known you now. Is that
Yes.
okay if I ask you this question, as
Sure.
stupid as
Of
it
course.
is?
No, of course.
I see everybody building their brand, and it's always, we always said, even when I started off, it was, you got your salon and everybody would want their name in the thing,
Yeah.
on the sign. We always called that the shingle that hung outside the
Uh-huh.
door. And it would always be somehow your name. Like I had my first salon was called Hair Baran, as in the German hair, and then Baran because that's part of my heritage. But they always want their name on, and yet your name is Jamal,
Yes.
but your salon is called Limoges. It's
Yeah.
not full title, but it's in there.
Yeah.
Your Instagram title, for anybody that's writing this down now when you want to get a hold of them, is Limoges backwards,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Lamaj backwards as
Yeah.
it's spelled. And that's your Insta. Where did that ever come from with Limoges? Where did that come from?
So my younger sister that we just talked about, that was the creative one.
Yeah.
That's what she named it. When I
Oh,
was, yep. So she basically, it's just my name backwards. It's Jamal backwards. So when we were young, I was just like, hey, I want to open a salon, and she's like, oh, this is what you're gonna name it, and
really?
that's
And
yep, and
where did that spark from? Did she
I
just out of left field?
I have no clue. I mean, she's just as creative as I am.
Yeah.
She was in fashion, so I was thinking she was going to do something a lot bigger in fashion, but like that was her thing. Back when we were
Yeah.
young, she loved clothes. She loved to dress up. Like, I mean, I was literally doing her hair twice a week because she just always liked to change.
Yep.
And I remember her. She gave me that name, and I just kept it. Yep,
Amazing.
yep. I
What?
just
So
kept it.
so now you've got the salons. Everything's going on really well. Actually, I want to ask you a question first because I know the type that I am.
Yes,
Which one are introvert, extrovert? What are you?
introvert.
Introvert.
Yep.
Nice. So tell me about that. What, like, because I'm an introvert as well.
Yeah.
I like my alone time. I have a hard time mixing with people.
Mhm.
Everybody sees me doing this and they think, "Oh God, he
Yeah.
must be such an extrovert." But I have to get other people to do that and hook up everybody for me. But what drew you to education when you have to get out and you appear more like the extrovert?
Well, it's interesting because people, when I say introvert to them, they are like, no, no
Yeah,
way. No way that you're
you
introverted.
liar.
Exactly. But what I will say is the way that I see it, or the way that I can explain it to you the most is that a day of let's say a Redkin symposium, right? And let's say another event that's like multiple stage rotations throughout the day. when it's done, I'm done. Like I'm
Mm,
checked out. Like I need to go. Now, a lot of times they'll throw like, okay, so after we've done stage rotations, now we have to go to a team dinner,
yeah,
right? It's like, oh my God, another team dinner. But again, being in the industry, you have to play. So
yep,
I put the smile on my face. I go and, take the minutes that I can, and then I come back out. But I definitely am a person who needs and who thrives in having some time to myself.
yeah,
So it's when you think about being on the road for 3 days straight, doing a show, the next 2 days, I'm typically off and
yeah,
I'm in the house by myself
yeah.
to kind of, because I need to refuel.
I'm with you on that one, brother. I'm exactly the same way.
But
It's
what
fun.
else is interesting though? And sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I heard that I've read somewhere that they are now, it's something that they've incorporated, introvert and extrovert. I can't remember what they call it, but I could possibly be that too. This
Yeah,
is something new. I'll have to research it and
yeah.
let
We
you know
could.
what it's called. But it's where you have characteristics of both introvert and extrovert.
It probably comes, I would imagine, because I'm trying to think back to, my experiences being an introvert as well. But there is times when I know that I do want a little bit of the glory, and I want people
Mhm.
to, oh, it's a good boy, it's a good
Yeah.
boy. Uh, I want to jump back into something you said so that people understand that you talked about team dinners, and sometimes there's things that you're obligated to go to for the audience's sake, and rightfully so. I mean, those are the people that are there; they deserve it, and they
Mhm.
want it, and sometimes they just do want to meet you. And I remember one. I don't remember the state or the place I was in, but I remember at one distributor. It was near Christmas, and we were doing a show, and they had an after dinner. It like is the whatever it was the Sunday you did a Sunday Monday show. The Sunday night they always had the cocktail party, and they had in this one room they had a sleigh set up, or it might have been Thanksgiving, and it was a sleigh ride or something like this, and we had to sit on these bales, and then people would come and get their pictures taken with us. And I want this to come across perfectly innocent as the way it met it as the way it was. And we just get it was Brian and Sandra Smith, myself, and we were sitting in this sleigh. And I said, first of all, if we're going to be doing this, first of all, you have to understand. Being an introvert, I'm going, who the hell would want to come and take a picture with me? So am I just going to sit here, and I just got to sit here now, and I'm going to sit here without red wine. So I said, somebody please make sure that you're bringing some red wine over to us and keep our glasses filled. So that part was great. And so we went through the night and did that, and they set out. And so the next day we were talking to somebody else, and they said, "Oh, how was last night?" And I nicknamed it the guest artist petting zoo, and and so that's. And I say it affectionately. Please don't. If anybody listening to this, don't get it wrong. Please, when you're at the shows, I'm insecure, so please come up and ask if you want to take a pic. Even if you don't like me or know me, just come up and say, "Can I have my picture with you?" Make me feel real good.
You are funny.
But so that's we nicknamed it the guest artist petting zoo, and that one has been stuck. Are you going to the guest artist petting zoo tonight?
That's funny. That is funny.
Oh, so with that in mind, okay, you and I are alike. We're kind of this intro extrovert, whatever.
Yeah.
But what pushes you? What makes you, especially when times are, I mean, everybody thinks that life is all rosy for us, and it's not.
Yeah.
What pushes you and really gets you going, especially when, it's like when you're at home and you go, Mom, I don't want to get out of bed this
Yeah.
morning. What pushes you?
So in the education field, I would say what pushes me is representation. because obviously there's not many people, black men that look like me,
What?
or
You're black?
there's not many that look like me, and so
Yeah.
I want to be an inspiration for maybe the little black boy that's coming out of college school that's like, hey, I want to be able to do that one day, or is there even space and room for me to do that?
Yeah.
And I also want to be a for my community. A lot of black stylists don't get a lot of the opportunities that I get, right? And
True.
so I know that, right? And so I want to not only show up, but I also want to give them all of the information that I didn't get.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that once I became connected to a brand, I learned a lot. And I don't know that I would have ever got that, or learned those things if I wasn't. And so it's important to me to pay it forward.
And like when you pay it forward, like what? Tell us a little bit more about that. What does that mean?
It's interesting that you asked me this because I was on a panel a couple weeks ago, and some artists that came before me was kind of sharing their perspectives on social media. And however, I respect everyone's opinion. We all should live our lives the way that we want to live them. And one of the questions that came up, or one of the topics that came up, was why do hairstylists give, let's say, color formulas on Instagram for free? And I said, well, and then they were, a few of them were like, oh, I would never do that. And if you want to come and learn from me, then you have to pay me for this. And I respect that.
Yeah.
It's just not my way. And so one of my ways of paying it forward is to do those things, to show tips and tricks and ways of being able to improve your business, or how do you do all of these amazing things that I've been able to accomplish, not maybe giving you my roadmap, but how can you build a client base in a salon? What's the best coloring technique to add highlights to someone that has a ton of dense curly hair? Me giving you those tips and tricks, or even a formula, it doesn't mean that you'll be able to do it the way that that I can do it. It just means that I'm going to give you some of the things that has made me successful. And so that is kind of my way of giving it, paying it forward.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was doing a little research as well, and I thought you've also been involved in some charities, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which ones?
So we like to do a coat drive every year. And we normally do something for Thanksgiving too. So like I haven't done it in a couple years. Like since COVID, I haven't done it, but I probably will resume it next year.
Yeah.
But every month we would do something different, whether it was feeding the homeless. We did a coat drive all the time. We did a toy drive, Toys for Tots. So we would get the clients to donate toys for Christmas. I normally personally donate coats and stuff to a homeless shelter like every winter. We'll collect it, and then I'll take my kids to help me donate it, because I think that that's just something they need to understand.
Yeah.
Because we live a great life, and I need them to understand, to be grateful.
There's another side.
Yep. For sure.
And probably, but from one mistake, there we go, So,
For sure.
I mean, I think that's great. How old are your kids, or how old?
7, 11, and 13.
Oh, you've testosterone running around that house.
Let me tell you. This morning they get into this morning they arguing about something crazy as we're in the car. I'm like, Jesus, it's just always something with these boys. Always.
Is there everything always seems so rosy for everybody that's out there that when they see Jamal on stage. You've got it all. You're successful. Was there any rough patches in your career that you could share?
Um, so the only thing I would say is a rough patch was the first rough patch was. I mean, there's been many now that I think about it, but the first rough patch I would say was trying to stay inspired, and that was kind of when I joined Mazzani. The second rough patch was I owned I owned two spaces at one time. So I owned one salon that was a booth rental space, and then I opened the salon that I had now, which is a commission space. And so one salon understanding what the other salon was, there became this rivalry between spaces because the booth rental space felt like I was giving the commission space a lot more attention, but really understanding what a commission based salon looks like
Yeah,
versus a booth rental salon. Of
exactly.
course, it requires more energy and more space. And so navigating through that, and then just really building a solid team.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was rough. And I'm looking for one other stylist, but for now, I have a pretty solid team. But things change all the time, so
yeah,
those
yeah.
are
That's
some moments where I was like, you know,
well. It's like their old saying, and again, I say this with my tongue in my cheek, but they say for salon owners, and salon owners will giggle when they hear it because they've heard it before. The two best moments in your life are the day you open your salon and the day
there
you
you go.
the day you sell it. So one's anticipation and the other one's relief.
Yeah,
So
I'm telling you.
the I just want to do is I'm going to go into what I call some rapid fire questions here in just a
Okay.
second. But is there mentors that you have? And to me, I always think that if the mentors, and to me, and to qualify it for me, to me, a mentor is not somebody who influenced you that you don't know. A mentor is somebody that physically helped to change your life and your career path, or your life.
Yeah.
Who are the mentors? Who are the mentors in your life?
So I was able to. Evie and I both had Chris Sorby as a mentor for NAHA shoot at some point.
Amazing
It was
woman.
yeah, it was some years ago, but I mean, just to be able to work with her and to be able to really just, I learned so much from her. Two things that I learned from her was to look at the image in the camera, because a lot of times what I would do as an artist is I'm looking at the subject in front of me, but not on the camera screen.
Yeah.
And so she changed my entire, thought process around that. And also being able to walk away, being able to step away from what you've created, give it some time to also, okay, just let it be, because a lot of times I felt like I would overwork something, or I would be on set, or again, trying to force what's in my mind on that subject and not allowing it, like the surprise to happen, like you said
Yeah.
earlier,
Yeah.
right? So just being able to walk away from it and revisit it at a later date, or you know what, you got to a certain point, let's put it in front of the camera, see what it looks like, and then we pivot, you know.
Yeah.
And then Kate O'Shell, obviously, which is the director of education for Mazzani. She's been very instrumental in just my career and, helping me along the way and making sure that I was, on point at all times.
Yeah. That's amazing, and I know both of them very well, and they are amazing people. And I know Chris has had a lot of. He's been a good mentor to me as well. So
Yeah.
I think we both owe her a lot. Okay, so I want to throw out some rapid stuff. This is just rapid questions. Give it to you quickly, 1 or 2 words, quick sentence answers.
Okay.
What turns you on in the creative process?
What turns me on in a great creative process? Travel.
What stifles it?
Um, a lot of chitter chatter.
An event or show that you loved?
An event or show that I loved. Our Mazzani summit. The thing that we do every year for our artists.
A thing in life that you dislike the most?
What do I dislike? Lazy people.
What do you love the most?
Um, what do I love the most? Honesty.
Proudest moment of your life?
Proudest moment of my life was when I adopted my son.
Thing that you hate most about our industry, that you dislike?
What I dislike most about our industry is that um, we still haven't realized that any hairstylist of any race should be able to do any type of hair.
And what do you love most about it?
I love most about our industry where it can take you.
Person you admire the most?
The person I admire the most is my dad.
Why?
Because he's just such a he's one of those people that has such a big personality. Well, it's not even a big personality. He has a big influence, and he's an introvert also. So he's just hardworking. Always did the best for us, and he's just a humble guy.
Love it. Person you wish you could meet?
Person I wish I could meet. Pass. We'll come back.
Something that people don't know about you?
Something that people that don't. That I love karaoke.
Oh. A month off, where would you go? What would you do?
Say that again.
A month off. You got a month off. Where would you go? What would you do?
Maldives. Get in the water and take naps.
Nice. A thing that terrifies you?
I have this phobia of teeth. So something that terrifies me if I ever lose my front teeth.
Oh. Favorite curse word?
Fuck.
Favorite comfort food?
Favorite comfort food? Sweets, cupcakes, cake.
Something in the industry you haven't done but you want to?
Something in the industry I haven't done. Television.
Oh. If you could have one thing that you could do over in life, what would it be?
The one thing that I could do over in life, I would go to college. I didn't go to college. I would go to college.
What would you take?
Probably business, some type of business management or something like that.
Tomorrow you couldn't do hair. Couldn't have anything to do with hair. What would you do?
Ooh, something in fashion.
Nice. Okay, one wish. One wish that, if you had one wish for our industry, what would it be?
The one wish that I have for our industry is erase race.
We got to make T-shirts for that. Jamal, I mean, we did talk about where people can get a hold of you earlier, but remind us again, if people want to get a hold of you to have you come in and do a seminar or whatever, how could they get a hold of you?
So my Instagram is Lamaj backwards, LAMAJ BACKWARDS.
Yeah.
And that's on Instagram.
Gotcha. Okay. Jamal, like I said at the beginning, it's been too long. I can't wait. Then two introverts get together. I don't know what introverts drink, but I know what I drink. But next time at least if it's, we'll have an extrovert in there. We'll get Evie in with us, and we'll have a cocktail or two. So I just want to say you've given up your time, your energy to be here. I hope you had some fun and a good conversation. I always think that's what I love about this, and I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, and the industry thanks you for what you do.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for having me. It's been a blast.
As I always say, thank you for being had.
Yeah.
Take care, my friend.
You too.